Imagine a patient walking into a clinic, fully trusting the physical therapist who's about to treat their recently operated spine.
Right. You'd assume they're totally qualified.
Exactly. The session happens, the patient goes home, and, everything seems completely fine.
But I'm guessing it wasn't.
No, it wasn't, because weeks later, an audit reveals that the therapist's license was actually suspended 2 states over
Oh, wow. Suspended for what?
for a history of severe malpractice.
Hmm.
And the crazy part is the clinic had absolutely no idea.
That is terrifying.
Right. Like, how did a suspended, potentially dangerous provider get through the door, treat a vulnerable patient, and then actually submit a bill to an insurance company?
I mean, it usually isn't some malicious conspiracy.
No, totally. It was literally a single missed checkbox on a piece of paper during the hiring process. And that is the reality we are looking at today.
It's a huge issue.
It really is. So our mission today is to unpack a highly detailed article from Prime Credential, and it's titled, Why Every Therapy Clinic Needs a Credentialing SOP.
Which, I know. Credentialing and standard operating procedures, SOPs, they sound incredibly dry.
Oh, totally. Pure back-office administrative noise.
Yeah, but as your scenario just illustrated, these frameworks are actually the critical, invisible safety nets keeping patients protected.
And keeping healthcare businesses from total collapse, really.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So to start, the stakes underlying these administrative processes are just immense. Credentialing is fundamentally a rigorous, demanding verification process.
Right, checking licenses, training, all of that.
Exactly. It's the absolute prerequisite before any clinic can bill insurers or Medicare or Medicaid. It's essentially the ultimate gatekeeper of the modern medical facility.
The bouncer at the door, basically.
Yeah, a very strict one. The source material defines this as a formal process utilizing an established series of guidelines to ensure patients receive the highest level of care.
But, over the last few decades, this whole landscape has shifted so dramatically, right?
Oh, absolutely. Managing this process without a lockdown system nowadays is basically operational suicide. We're looking at two massive compounding factors here.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, the expanded scopes of practice. I mean, therapy is no longer a generalized field at all.
Right. You have all these micro-specialties now.
Exactly. You have physical therapists carrying specialized, highly regulated certifications in things like vestibular rehabilitation or dry needling.
Oh, right. And occupational therapists doing really high-risk hand therapy protocols.
Yeah, and every single one of those microspecializations requires its own distinct verification trail. And then the second factor is the payer requirements.
Which have gotten incredibly stringent, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Insurance networks and government payers, they demand absolute incontrovertible proof of these specific qualifications before they authorize even a single dollar of reimbursement.
So the complexity just multiplies exponentially, especially when you look at multi-service clinics.
Oh, for sure. It's a nightmare.
Like a practice offering physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech-language pathology, all under one roof. They're essentially running 3 parallel administrative marathons.
Yeah, they're juggling completely different regulatory requirements, continuing education standards, board regulations, all simultaneously.
So going back to that bouncer analogy, we aren't talking about a bouncer who just, glances at a driver's license.
No, not at all.
This bouncer is cross-referencing the name against like 5 different state registries, running a federal background check, calling previous employers, and verifying the exact expiration date of an obscure certificate.
Yeah, before letting anyone near the VIP area. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that bouncer scenario breaks down completely the moment you remove a standardized list of rules.
Right. Imagine if the bouncer just started guessing based on how long the line was.
Or what they remembered doing the night before. Without a standard operating procedure and SOP, all this multi-layered tracking devolves into highly inconsistent documentation across a clinic's staff.
Like one coordinator doing it right and another doing it completely wrong.
Exactly. One credentialing coordinator might pull data directly from the state board's API, while another might just look at a photocopied diploma someone brought in their backpack.
Which is wild. And that operational inconsistency leads directly to massive bottlenecks, right?
Oh, huge bottlenecks. Providers just sit idle because they aren't approved to work. Or worse, they do work, and the claims submitted for their time get categorically denied by the payers.
And the core mechanism of failure driving those bottlenecks is basically just human memory.
Right. We just can't remember it all.
The Prime Credential article explicitly points out that an SOP provides a written framework which makes actions, functions, and tasks more uniform and clear. It systematically strips away a clinic's reliance on memory,
Because human memory is notoriously fragile.
especially when tasked with executing long, complex, repetitive, high-stakes checklists.
Yeah, and in an environment where the phone is ringing off the hook, patients are checking in, doctors are demanding updates, it's chaotic.
And the regulatory bodies, they don't offer any leniency for memory lapses, do they?
None. Zero leniency. The source actually highlights a specific regulatory example regarding community health centers.
Oh, what's the rule there?
By federal law, these centers are required to recredential their providers at least every 2 years to remain compliant.
Wow, every 2 years. So the clock is constantly resetting.
Exactly. Every 2 years, the clinic has to execute primary source license verification all over again. They have to independently verify malpractice insurance history, make sure no new claims have been filed.
So these aren't just one-time onboarding tasks.
No, they are cyclical, unmissable deadlines. Missing that 2-year window by a single day means the provider is technically unqualified.
And any care they provide is essentially unbillable and a massive liability.
Precisely.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Creating a comprehensive, 100-page operational manual that takes weeks of focused effort. A small or mid-sized clinic usually can't afford that kind of administrative downtime.
That's a common concern, yeah.
Let's say you have a veteran office manager. She's been running the front desk for 15 years. She knows every payer's portal. She knows all the state board websites by heart.
Right, she's a rock star.
Yeah. So why pull her off the floor to write a massive SOP? Isn't the cure worse than the disease here? It just feels like an unnecessary bureaucratic burden if your staff already knows the drill.
Well, see, that veteran office manager operating entirely from memory and experience actually represents a massive hidden compliance vulnerability for the business.
Really? How so?
Think about the operational fragility. What happens when she contracts a severe illness and is out for a month?
Oh, right. Or if she retires.
Exactly. Or what if the clinic lands a new contract, doubles in patient volume overnight, and has to hire 3 new front desk staffers immediately?
They wouldn't know where to start without her.
Right. Relying on one person's internalized knowledge means the entire compliance apparatus is a single point of failure.
That makes total sense. So standardization ensures every single staff member executes the exact same sequence.
Exactly, whether they've been there 15 years or 15 days. The SOP isn't about micromanaging an experienced employee.
Right. It's about building a resilient system that survives the inevitable turnover and scaling of the business.
Exactly. It's about structural survival. The system has to outlive the specific people running it.
And the source material takes a very hard look at what happens when that system fails, right? Moving from just financial headaches to severe consequences.
Yeah, it references the Indian Health Service Credentialing Manual, which draws a really sharp line between 2 distinct types of failures.
Oh, yeah. Informational errors and decisional errors. Look at the mechanics of these. Informational errors seem to just be failures in the data gathering phase, right?
Yeah, they're fundamentally clerical, just omissions in the checklist.
Like a staff member forgets to ping the primary source to confirm a degree, or they misread the expiration date on a CPR certification.
Right. Annoying, but usually just an oversight. Decisional errors, however, are failures of judgment, and they are far more insidious.
How does a decisional error play out?
Well, it happens when the clinic staff actually successfully gathers all the correct information, and they uncover a concerning history, like a pattern of past disciplinary actions or a suspended license.
Like the story we started with.
Exactly. They find it, but then they ignore it, minimize it, or just fail to escalate it properly. They have the data, but they make a catastrophic decision about what to do with it.
But why does a decisional error actually happen in the real world? Like, it's rarely a malicious conspiracy to hire a bad provider, right?
No, almost never. It's usually driven by systemic pressure.
Right. The clinic has a backlog of 60 patients waiting for physical therapy.
Exactly. Management is pushing the front desk to get the new hire credentialed and billing immediately to ease the financial strain.
So the coordinator sees a red flag on a background check, but they're under such immense pressure to clear the bottleneck, they rationalize it away.
Yeah, they think, oh, it's just one malpractice claim 5 years ago. It's probably fine.
But the SOP eliminates that subjective rationalization. It forces a hard stop.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how a rigorous SOP neutralizes that exact systemic pressure. It completely removes the burden of subjective judgment from the individual employee.
By mandating non-negotiable checkpoints, I assume.
Yes. For instance, querying the National Practitioner Data Bank, the NPDB, and cross-referencing those findings directly with state licensure boards.
So the SOP dictates that if a red flag appears in the NPDB, the onboarding process just halts immediately?
Instantly, regardless of how long the patient waitlist is. The article quotes a credentialing authority stating that these procedures confirm the current competence, character, and licensure of clinical candidates.
The inclusion of the word character is really vital there.
Absolutely. Credentialing is not merely verifying that a candidate passed a board exam. It is verifying that they possess the professional integrity required to be trusted with vulnerable patients.
And an SOP just takes the emotion, the rush, and the guesswork out of evaluating that fitness.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned the National Practitioner Data Bank. That's essentially the ultimate background check, right? Like the federal clearinghouse for medical malpractice payments.
Yeah, and adverse actions against healthcare practitioners. If a clinic isn't checking that systematically, they are flying blind.
But if we pivot to the operational return on investment, the ROI fixing this tedious process actually generates massive benefit.
Oh, huge benefits.
I mean, nobody opens a physical therapy clinic because they have a deep passion for filling out government forms. They want to treat patients.
Right. But optimizing these boring workflows pays massive dividends in speed, revenue, and just staff sanity.
So what does the Prime Credential article say about this optimization?
It leans heavily on insights from Mayo Clinic experts. The Mayo Clinic notes that clear SOPs improve the quality of work and reduce the number of errors and omissions.
So it empowers staff to execute complex tasks quickly.
Yes. Think about it. Every time a credentialing application is submitted with an omission, the insurer kicks it back.
Right, and that claim ages.
Exactly. The clinic has to spend hours tracking down the missing information, resubmitting it, and waiting another 30 to 60 days for reimbursement. That wreaks absolute havoc on cash flow.
But a lockdown SOP prevents the omission in the first place.
Ensuring a clean submission and much faster reimbursement.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I like to think about it like a master recipe in a commercial bakery.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
If you are running a high-volume bakery, you don't hand a new baker a bag of flour and tell them to just figure out how to make a croissant based on their past experience.
Definitely not. It would be chaos.
You hand them the master recipe. You tell them, weigh the flour to the gram, fold the butter exactly 3 times, bake at this exact temperature.
Right, which guarantees the product comes out perfectly every single time, regardless of who is working the oven.
Exactly. And more importantly, it reduces the cognitive load. The baker doesn't have to stop and calculate ratios. They just execute the proven system.
And that translates perfectly to the clinic. Reusing the same optimized templates and workflows for Medicare or Medicaid submissions saves countless administrative hours.
The staff isn't reinventing the wheel every time a new speech-language pathologist joins the team.
Right. That reduction in cognitive load is the absolute secret to high-functioning administrative teams.
Are there any specific habits the article recommends to help with this?
Yes, the source outlines a very specific practical habit embedded in effective SOPs, assigning one designated person to audit all license expirations across the entire clinic every single month.
Seems like a pretty mundane task.
It is mundane.
Yeah.
But that one standardized scheduled habit entirely prevents the chaotic, panic-inducing scramble that happens when a therapist realizes their license expired 2 days ago.
Oh, man. And then the clinic suddenly has to cancel a full day of patient appointments because that provider legally cannot touch a patient.
Exactly. It saves so much stress.
That actually brings us to what Prime Credential actually does to solve this, right?
Yeah, they don't just advise clinics to write a better manual.
They leverage technology and automations specifically designed for PT, OT, and SLP credentialing.
Right. They customize the approach based on the specific provider type and the specific payer networks involved.
And by doing that, clinics achieve significantly faster enrollment turnarounds and much higher first-time approval rates. Plus, Prime Credential manages the constant stream of regulatory updates from Medicare, Medicaid, and private payers.
Which is huge. Instead of the clinic manager spending hours every week trying to figure out if a regional Medicare contractor changed their submission rules, the automated system just handles it.
By outsourcing the heavy lifting of regulatory tracking, the clinic's internal staff is totally liberated.
Right. They can redirect that energy toward patient experience, clinical operations, and actual business growth.
However, whether a clinic utilizes a sophisticated service like Prime Credential or attempts to build and manage the system internally, the requirement for active maintenance remains identical, doesn't it?
Absolutely. An SOP is not a static document. You can't just write it and forget it.
The practical implementation FAQs in the article detail exactly how to keep the system functional. First up, the review cycles.
Right. An SOP cannot be written, shoved into a binder, and left to gather dust on a shelf. The standard dictates a review every 6 to 12 months.
And more importantly, it has to be updated immediately whenever regulations change or following any internal audit or error.
Yeah, if a decisional error slips through or a claim is denied because a new payer rule was missed, the clinic must go back and rewrite the recipe to ensure it never happens again.
So regarding execution, who actually uses this document?
The source specifies that everyone involved in the revenue cycle must utilize the SOP. That includes front desk coordinators, billing specialists, and practice managers.
But does everyone own it?
No, while everyone uses it, ownership must be centralized. One specific individual must be designated to oversee the process, maintain the document, and enforce compliance.
Because if everyone owns it, no one owns it.
Exactly. Without singular ownership, the system quickly degrades. Furthermore, the source makes a critical distinction between the SOP and technology.
Right. An SOP does not replace credentialing, vendors, clearinghouses, or software.
No, the software is the vehicle, but the SOP is the steering wheel.
I like that. The software might automate the API call to the state board, but the SOP dictates what the staff member is required to do if that API call returns a discrepancy.
Exactly. It dictates the escalation pathway.
But let's talk about the solo practitioner for a second.
Okay, sure.
If a listener is running a tiny, cash-based sports rehab practice like just them and a part-time assistant managing the schedule, building a formal credentialing SOP seems like massive overkill.
You'd think so, yeah.
Surely the rules are different when you don't have 20 providers to manage, right?
This raises an important question about operational scale and liability. The source material is actually unequivocal on this point. Scale does not negate the necessity of a verified process.
Wait, really? Even a completely solo cash-based practice?
Yes. Even they require an SOP. Now, it does not need to be a multi-volume manual. For a tiny practice, it might literally be a single-page flowchart pinned to the wall next to the computer.
But it still has to comprehensively cover every required verification step.
Exactly, because the regulatory bodies, the state boards, and the civil courts do not scale their liability based on the size of the business.
Wow, so if a solo practitioner makes a decisional error, fails to verify a certification, and a patient is harmed,
The legal and financial exposure is identical to that of a massive hospital network. The flowchart protects the solo practitioner just as fiercely as the massive manual protects the hospital.
that is a crucial point. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Whether you are managing a massive multidisciplinary healthcare facility, running a solo therapy practice, or operating in an entirely different industry, the fundamental lesson applies.
Standardization is key.
Exactly. Standardizing complex, high-stakes, repetitive tasks through rigorous written frameworks is not about creating suffocating bureaucracy. It's about cognitive offloading.
I love that term, cognitive offloading.
Right. By locking down the boring, critical workflows, you eliminate the constant hum of administrative anxiety. You free up human brainpower and operational resources to focus entirely on the core mission of the business.
Which, in the case of these clinics, is delivering exceptional patient care.
Spot on. You can only focus on the patient if you have total confidence that the invisible safety net of your SOP is holding the infrastructure together.
And as we project into the near future, the structural integrity of that safety net is going to be tested like never before.
How so?
While the source meticulously details the catastrophic risks of informational and decisional errors, allowing unqualified providers into the system. Now, overlay that risk profile onto the explosive expansion of telehealth and cross-state therapy models.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that complicates things.
Massively. We have therapists actively treating patients across multiple state lines, requiring them to navigate the credentialing rules of multiple different state boards, diverse regional payer networks, and conflicting continuing education standards simultaneously.
The complexity is compounding daily.
It really is. So you have to wonder, will standardizing these credentialing procedures across all 50 states eventually become a strict federal mandate, driven by the sheer scale of telehealth, rather than remaining a best practice left up to the varying SOPs of individual clinics?
A federal mandate dictating a universal credentialing standard across state lines would completely upend the current operational landscape.
It would be revolutionary.
It would force every clinic to throw out their regional rulebooks and adopt a single, unified bouncer for the entire country.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It certainly forces us to look at the humble clinic SOP in a much more profound light. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep looking for the systems running beneath the surface.